Moo and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pinktron. I am Brent Robinson, and I'm joined today by a full slate of guests. Let's start with Steph Etchen. Steph, what are you drinking?
I'm having my trusty Fanta lemon. It's almost summer is over, but I'm keeping it as my drink for the pink trial.
Nice, very nice. And we also have Craig Martin. Craig, what are you drinking?
So I am drinking from the very local Holy Whale Brewing Company, which also has a cross business with the Holy Bully right around the corner here. The Chico Spanish Golden Ale, which has a fun, familiar looking
Cool.
llama pinata.
I was gonna say, is it familiar looking because it's from Fortnite or?
Yes, that's
Okay.
exactly what I'm saying.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Not so old yet, kids. All right. We also have John Keenan. John, what are you drinking?
It's still early here, so I got the coffee going with had to have the mushroom just for the weekly mushroom dose. But I found this in the fridge, orange mango lime pop culture. It's like a soda pop. It's got a little spice in it. It's nice, not too much sugar.
Excellent. And we also have Steve Pritchard. Steve, what are you drinking?
I'm continuing the citrus theme of the Europeans on the podcast at the moment. So I'm on a Thatcher's Blood Orange, orange flavored cider.
Sounds very tasty. Very tasty. And we also have Sean Fogenberg. Sean, what are you drinking?
He's drinking a whole
He's
load of mute by
he's,
the sounds
he's
of it.
so
Drinking a
thirsty that
mute
he
button.
forgot to even
I
unmute and get his thing.
yeah.
This is just the effect of having Craig on the podcast. Like somebody's sound has to go wrong at some point.
I've got a couple things in front of me. I will be moving to this Fieldwork Encore Hazy IPA non-alcoholic, but I'm starting highly alcoholic. I have a bachelorette party that some friends are throwing at. We're renting a house up in the foothills this weekend, and it will be kind of a trailer park themed thing. And so I've come up with some cocktail ideas that I'm bringing along. These are a couple of the other ones. A Fireball apple cider and cinnamon toast crunch rim on one
Ah,
of them. Uh, I really like this one, the sports margarita, a lemon lime Gatorade, tequila, and salted pretzel rim. But the one that I've got in front of me is we'll call this breakfast in the double wide, maybe. Um, it's brown butter infused. It's a brown butter infused bourbon, maple syrup, and bacon bits rim.
That
Uh,
looks amazing. I'm going to put
it's
that on
it's
there. That
actually
one.
really tasty.
Yeah.
Sounds like a lot of work to put together.
Yeah, I did start the bourbon infusing yesterday. You gotta like brown the butter, put it in there. You end up freezing it so that you like the butter all like the solids come back off, and then
Yeah,
yeah,
that's fantastic. What are you using as the bourbon base on that?
it's just Buffalo Trace.
Just Buffalo Trace?
Yeah,
Just Buffalo Trace. It's a quality whiskey there,
it
I think
I
that
Sean.
love the fact to hold the level of preparation that's gone into your drink for the Tron is just so many orders of magnitude higher than the level of preparation we've put into what we're going to talk about on the
oh,
Tron.
absolutely.
I listen to like a lot of podcasts. I like that like sometimes you listen to podcasts and people who are like doing it on the side and it interferes a little bit with whatever their professional thing is. They're like, oh, that's a work thing. I can't really talk about it. Chris is like, Buffalo Trace. Dinner
We
on
got
seeing
yeah,
Tim
there's a couple. I'm
Galloway
gonna
about
count
it.
these as menu placements, honestly. We got Buffalo Trace in there, the Fireball. I appreciate the support on that.
These are, I
Great
mean,
work, Sean.
this is billable hours for Chris.
Yeah, yeah, this all goes this
Oh,
is pure gold content.
I wish. I
Influencer
wish.
action.
All
Thank
right.
you for
And
the support.
I have actually I'm not being boring today. I have Coors Banquet, original Coors Banquet. Um,
Nice, the banquet beer.
yeah, so literally sitting in my office. My office is kind of like independent, but like I'm just like sort of on the DL, drinking a beer in my office, working. Sorry to my clients.
Good
I'm
job.
not
Great
working on
job
any
not
of your
being
work
boring,
right
Brent.
now. Yeah. Let
So
my
what
wife
is the
drive to the
banquet
airport.
beer? I've never heard of it. Is it some flavor of
Uh,
Coors?
Oh, just Coors,
It
right?
it's the original Coors when so the story
Oh,
goes, having been on the Coors tour multiple times in Golden, Colorado, the story goes when the miners would come down out of the mountains after a long stint, they would throw banquets to welcome them back into town, and Adolphus Coors would make this the original Coors, so it became known as the banquet beer being served.
oh,
So that is the
okay.
original, and then all the other Coors from that kind of spun off.
and you know where else they have banquets? In Paris. And this week's HSRL is on Champs Elysees in Paris.
Brent, you didn't ask me what I was drinking.
Oh,
That's a
oh
poorly
no.
timed.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
Chris Greenland, what are you drinking?
Too many
Never
people.
mind
Host
now.
fail, host fail.
Didn't put nearly as much prep work into my drink as Sean did. I am drinking it rained here this morning, so it's like stout and whiskey weather. I'm drinking a Modern Times Submersible City coconut stout. And then we've got some 1792 bottled in bond whiskey bourbon. It's a single barrel pick from a account nearby here. So won't kill that bottle today, but should put a good dent in it with y'all.
And you know what happened in 1792 in Paris?
1792, that's a little late. That 1792 would have been like maybe like coronation. No, it's
The
that's like that'd be
insurrection of 1792 and the defining event of the French Revolution.
well, I
Boom.
thought that would have been a
There you
little late
go.
for French Revolution. But anyway, there you go. And what's going to happen in France this weekend is HSRL. We get multiple segues this week because we're just so good at it here.
Well-oiled machine.
All right. This week, Champs Elysees, it is a points race. It's got 5 laps, and there's a whole mix of different uh point situations happening here. Who's wants to try to go through this first?
Chris and I raced it.
Oh, did you guys
Uh,
race today? All right. All right.
Yeah.
And you guys know the point structure? Do I talk about point structure first and
yes.
then we'll talk about it? All right, you guys
Yeah.
go give her.
So there are points at the sprint every lap. And it's just 50 points first across the line, 50 down to 1 by 1 point. So just trying to get through there. And then the second and fourth laps are FTS laps, 100 down to 1, or I guess down to 2 by 2 points, I think.
I think it was 150 by
Oh, is it?
threes.
Okay. Uh, and then also bigger points at the finish, I think the same as the FTS.
Mhm.
Um, but it turns out uh, maybe if you aren't feeling strong, like say you're coming back from an illness or something, putting a lot of your eggs in that FTS basket on lap 2 is not a smart decision and will get you blown up.
Do you know anybody in that situation, Sean, who might be coming back from illness and maybe went a little too hard on the FTS?
Yeah, me. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. Uh, I so it took it was like, oh yeah, the herd riders are doing the thing where we sag off the back. Stuart Evans was even a couple seconds behind me. I was a couple
yeah.
seconds behind Chris, and
Uh-huh.
Chris was like right at the tail end of the group. But they really started pushing right after the lap banner, and that couple
Yep.
seconds very quickly turned into 5 seconds that Stuart and I had to push all the way up that hill to make up. We did get back into the bunch, and so we did lose out on FAL points by just getting to the back of the group by the time we got to the sprint. But, I think he probably got first and I was second on FTS for that lap. But on that next lap going up that hill, Chris hit it, and I was off the back of that group going up the hill on the third lap.
Yeah.
And then I guess at the end of the third lap, Chris had a what, dropout, or did you computer?
Oh no, yeah, total fucking disconnect. Everything went black. Kind of similar to like what you had, Steve, happen last week, where just everything shut down. All sensors went dead. So I was still in the race, and this was going into the second FTS. So luckily I didn't cross the banner, but literally I rolled to a stop, 10 or 20 meters short of the banner. The group went ahead 30 seconds or so, and then yeah, it was just off the back. But it let me just TT a lap for FTS, and essentially I got maximum points on that one. So it did cook my FALs for the rest of the race, but it wasn't all a bad thing.
I was off the back of the group by that point, and I saw Chris coming, and it was like, all right, I'm gonna put in an effort for him, really try and drag him back up there. He caught me on right before the sprint, and I think I was able to stay in front of him for all of like 3 seconds. I was like, all right, have fun.
Storm in the castle. It was a very helpful 3 seconds, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you may not have gotten the FTS without that.
So you
Guarantee
got,
I would not have.
I just want to be clear. So on the fourth lap, like your disconnect was before you hit the lap banner starting the fourth lap, and then you
Correct.
managed to solo TT and take the FTS on the fourth lap.
Yeah.
It's not surprising because those groups really only push on
On
the
the sprint.
climb and the sprint,
Interesting.
and
Yeah.
uh, especially
Hmm.
In the group, everyone's looking at each other. If
Correct.
he's just holding 3.2, 3.3, whatever it is for a lap, uh, unsurprising that he was able to get those points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I'd like to see this scoring system, but on the reverse course. So is that
Yeah.
Lucette Express? I can never remember the right
Mhm.
name. Because as you say, Sean, I think the challenge is that everyone is going to hammer that climb up to the Arc de Triomphe. So actually, the shenanigans of dropping off before the sprint and then you have to like double hammer it back to those people. So I think timing's quite hard. Whereas the other way around, people are going to still hammer it up the climb, but that's like not quite half a lap, but it's the other side of the course from where the lap banner is. So I think the shenanigans would work more easily at that point. You could definitely drop more off. You'd be coming down the hill. Like it would be fun.
Yeah.
Chris
with
has
the
had a super domestic 2 weeks in a row then. This is after my dropout around Richmond last week. I decided to sit up for a lap and then help Chris catch up to the dude in front, which was fun.
No, I'm getting
Steve,
spoiled.
I enjoy that you used the shenanigans term I used when James first tried the FTS on the lap in HSRL.
That's probably one of the most fun and perfectly heard moments I've had. We had a bunch of us on Discord.
Yeah.
We were planning through the tunnel to come out, and we hammered it up the hill. Only about half of us made it back onto the group, so it went horribly wrong. But those that did smashed that FTS segment, and it worked perfectly. So, but yeah, really good fun. Big group of people on Facebook planning it, all on Discord for the event. We all gave it a good crack on the event, didn't we? And some of us made it work, which was cool.
I tried to tell James doing FTS on every lap on a lap course doesn't really work that well, but
it doesn't make sense. No,
it makes no sense.
it's impossible to win it back-to-back laps, right? Because you go like the fastest. I mean, you
Unless
just
you-
really drop
hard.
off.
Well, unless you drop way, way back off in the lead in, then you have a bucket of seconds that you can use over various laps.
Or you just go off the front and are so much stronger than everyone that you just TT the whole race.
Obviously,
but
yeah. That's silly.
Did you think the speed up that second lap sprint was a tactic or just people going for FAL? Like, were they trying to drop you guys who sagged deep, or were they just going for those FAL points, do you think?
I was trying to drive the pace to punish you and Stuart for lagging too much. I was like, come on, guys, we're doing this. Let's go. Let's make it hard. because
Excellent.
this was lap 2, and it's like we got to do this shit again. So let's teach these guys a lesson. Too much dangling.
Good.
Thanks.
Um,
Hey,
all right.
it's a race, man.
But
Yep.
just for what it's worth, Line's Facebook post says it's 100 points at 2 point differentials
Okay.
on the
Yeah.
Oh,
last
okay.
and the finish.
All right.
So
But I think
kudos.
this is where like you don't, and I've done this wrong tailgunning as well. Like you don't need to drop too far back. Like you only need to be a second quicker than everyone else. So once you got that 2 second gap, then you sprint back up to the group. You've got a
Yeah.
2 second advantage over them. Like it's says the man who's regularly done this wrong. So I don't bother with shenanigans anymore because it always does.
Yeah, it was easy to get that one very wrong. Also, I just probably shouldn't have been even trying it. I feel like this is one where unless you do feel like you are stronger than the rest of that group, don't get off the back of the group.
It depends who you're with too. Like I understand that. I know how to strategize a little bit, but I'm not like that bold, let's say, in my drop off. Like I don't like getting all the way out of the draft at the back. But I've raced these with like Mark and Origin, and they're so aggressive about it, and they also are like frankly they're better at the timing than I am, and so like those guys come from behind me, and then Mark could probably be beating the sprint Origin too, but like we come through like basically like close to each other, a bike length difference, but they've started them so further back because they're so much more confident in their ability to like push into the group, and I'm more like I don't want to get dropped here, so it's there like as much as you say like you don't need to go that far. Like if the guys like if there's other guys in your group who are more aggressive about it, then it's
Yeah.
really, really tough to like go fast enough off the front to punish them, especially when they're really good, like guys like Mark and Origin. All right.
I've had
Bike
interesting
choice.
battles on who can drop the furthest back with with McAfee or with Cy Seymour and all kinds of guys. Yeah. And Mark. Yeah.
But does it matter that this is a whole 6.6K lap? Like it seems like you can make up a lot of space
Um,
in
I mean, yeah, you can drop a
10-ish
lot further
minutes.
back on a 6K segment than you can on a
I
300 meter
would
segment.
I think that is partially true, but the as as we mentioned, the thing that is dangerous is that the climb comes immediately after the
Yeah.
banner. So you've opened a gap and then people immediately start going hard, means you have to go harder out of the draft to catch that group. And then, if you were only doing the same, you're only doing the same power as that group,
You can't
you're
catch.
now 10 seconds behind at the top of
Mhm.
that climb. And you now have to keep that power up for the descent where everyone else is resting. So unless you are able to get back on, so that's I think the danger on this one, and I learned it learned it too well.
Oh, that's always the edge is how
Yeah.
far can I go off and get back on?
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
because
it's like,
I think it's a double whammy, isn't it? Because there is still a bit of a beehive effect in a group, so they will go down that hill slightly faster
Yep.
than you will. I think, as you said, Craig, the best tactic is you want to be hitting the back of that group pretty much as they cross the line,
Mhm.
having made up that time, don't you? So
Yeah. Bike choice, Bolero
Yeah, I was
yes.
on the Dogma F, the new one.
Yeah.
with disc though.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's my new go-to. That dog map I think is it moves the curve, right? If you look at that thing, like it used to be like the curve was sort of defined by the Venge on the full arrow, Athos on the um light weight
And then the
climber, and then the
Tron.
Tron in the
Yeah.
middle. But now that Dogma F just pushes that curve out just a hair. So I think it's when you're on the Dogma with the disc, you're just a little bit lighter, a little bit more arrow. When you're on the climby ones, you're a little more arrow, but it's
Yeah.
just a slightly ahead of the Tron on the curve, which is kind of nice. It's a slick looking bike.
Yeah.
Feels fast.
Hmm.
Okay, are we gonna do like the turbo rest of the week.
Let's do turbo rest of the week.
All right, we got HBR is Steph.
Electric loop.
Electric loop. Climber's Gambit,
True.
Chris. Oh,
Climber's Gambit is hilly reverse and the volcano together.
Just combined time.
Combined time. Yep.
Pondo.
Nothing fancy.
Is this a warm up pre? Because for hilly, probably, yeah. Warm up pre.
This is using the Zwift Grand Fondo route, and you have to go out to the reverse. So I think you get a couple Ks in there, which is probably more than enough. Probably about a 3K until you hit the line. There's like zero YouTube video on
Still the
this.
worst
So
climb in the game, though, isn't it? Worst climb in the game.
in Steve's humble opinion, yes.
Well, it's a climb. This is me making air quotes. Like there's a one climb and there's a bunch of other rolly nonsense for the next 2.5 kilometers after that. All right. Mountain goats is forever a mystery.
A loop.
Something with a big hill in it, which there's a
Yep.
whole bunch of new options under the new routes. Stampede, we are doing an expanded bonus tour set of routes. So we're going to do Mayan 8 this week. Just a couple to bridge us over from now till we get into October. We'll start the new whole official season. We get into Herd Club Challenge. So we're doing Mayan 8, which is, I'm pretty sure it starts at the pens that are below the grade, goes out, does like a loop of the desert, comes back, goes up. If I get this all wrong, just check the route, but it goes up through Mayan and eats it down the grade and then back over and finishes at like the jungle banners, my recollection. But there is like some dirt in it, and it's just kind of those like dirt lower paths of the jungle and the Mayan and Itza, but down the grade, not up the grade. And then we got Bullseye, Craig.
Yeah, so Bullseye, we're gonna do LaGuardia Loop. So, and again, just the lap, the old classic Bullseye. I think I got some good feedback on that, so I guess we'll try that for a while. There's more loop courses now than there were when we switched to, because we were, kind of doing the same 5 courses at that point. So it made sense to change, but we've got more now. So I think maybe going back to that original format works.
And LaGuardia Loop, remind me, is that the uphill sprint or the downhill sprint?
Oh shoot. Now I forget which way is which too.
Or like, I guess there's either the like, you know what I mean? It's like uphill lead in, downhill actually through the banner versus kind of like flat-ish into the banner. I think are the two options. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So I think, yeah, so that's the one where you cut across the figure 8 and make the left turn, go up the hill, and then downhill to the banner. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're doing that Bullseye, you pretty much start your sprint in that hill. Like that is the
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you've got to stay with whoever's the front couple, whoever's first, and then, I mean, if you can stay there without sprinting, do it. But
Yep. Cool. And that brings us
on the Stampede. Yep. That's going out through the jungle first. Is it worth a bike change?
There's no way you'd save 10 seconds on the new roads in the new dirt. It's not long enough. If it was the full jungle, maybe, but it's only the lower bit, right? You do a little cut across at the Mayan temple thing there. So, but I even then, I don't know on the new roads, if you'd save, especially if you went all the way up and all the way back down, I don't know if you'd save 10 seconds. I mean,
they need to change the CDA because there's no way a TT bike would be within 10 seconds of a proper gravel bike on proper gravel, would it? So.
I think I mean I understand why they did it, but I continue to say that it was a mistake to de-dirtify the jungle and the other dirty gravel sections, right? Mm-hmm. Even the Zgur making it faster on a road bike, I thought was like it's more interesting when it's like
when there's differences in strategy and
yeah, you created those bikes and that kind of tarmac just to have something different. So yeah.
Yep.
Now it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost never like
that does lead in. We talk news now. One of the things that I was going to bring up was actually that they have been doing, and this is, I think this started around the time that they introduced the grade and really updated the look of the snowy parts of the Epic KOM. They really have been updating a lot of the look of um, a lot of the different road surfaces. So they're going to be updating the road surface visuals for dirt now. But I've actually really liked the new kind of road surface of the desert in Tempest Fugit, where like it looks like the dirt of the desert like now kind of blends in along the road, and it actually kind of looks nice. Um, they've been adding a bunch of other little road artwork and stuff on the desert recently for the 10-year anniversary. Just a lot of little visual improvements that are coming out a lot more regularly than I think we were used to having kind of these little improvements showing up. So that's something I've been enjoying recently.
Yeah, I think it's really neat, isn't it? Because there were certainly a while ago bits of the game where I'm like, it feels like you've just copied and pasted other bits of the game here, and it doesn't feel like I'm riding somewhere new and different, which I think is really important. When you're meant to be in this immersive virtual world while you cycle along, is what separates it from just sitting on a turbo and bashing out watts and being told that you're going fast. Like it's so yeah, I really like the new road patterns as well, especially the 10-year anniversary things. I like the bit of color on the road. I like them being playful with it. I'm probably a bit out there with Zwift. I like it when it's a bit sort of like hyper real, not hyper real, sort of like they are playing with the fact that it's a virtual world, and like so I like the glass roads in New York, like that kind of thing. I think that's a cool thing to play with.
So have you
I
seen,
did.
Steve, the cheat code they put out where you can make your head enormous?
Yeah, so
The, the
this was
Konami Code.
the other little piece of news that came out is there's a Konami code printed on the Zwift ride. The like if for I feel like looking around this group here, lots of us were probably right around the right age to know the Konami codes for Contra. Uh, up, down, down, left, right, BA, select, start.
BA,
Um,
BA. Oh, you got it
Yeah,
right twice.
BABA.
well, on this, it's up, down, left, BAZ on the Zwift Play controllers. And you do that, and it makes your head enormous. Your and everyone
Shut the
else's
front
head.
door. What?
Everybody's head in game.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah, I saw the Shane Miller video too, Cindy. It's fun.
I mean, it's also really sad that the two people most excited about this don't have the Zwift players. They're based in Canada, but
We don't either. And it's, yeah.
Probably email WTRL and put my order in, but I'm holding out now for the ride. So
I do like that in the Zwift Insider post about this, they were like, hey, maybe let us enter Paperboy mode. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh, that'd be good.
I know this is all like a digression from anything we planned today, but like big head mode so takes me back to NBA Jam, like
mhm.
early
Yes.
90s
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Like, oh, give me like a cheat code for like, oh, now you look like Lance Armstrong or something. And it's like 40 watts.
I want
Lance
the
Armstrong EPO mode.
I want the Mortal Kombat babalities where it turns you into just a big baby that's riding a bike around.
does the Lance Armstrong mode turn Scotty the squirrel into just giant inflatable EPO needles or something? It's like bouncing along at the side of the road.
I,
It's the big
I
paper
can't
bags.
see that one flying through legal, but wow, that would be fun.
The Tadej Pogacar code where you fly up every hill at 6 watts per kilo.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh dear. I still
Honestly,
remember we had a Actua Soccer, I think it was, in like '94. and they'd recorded two versions of the each of the players' name. You were passing the ball, one from when you were shooting, and they'd messed this up so that one of the players only had the shooting noise, which was the commentator basically screaming their name. And you could rename all of the players in the games. Of course, what you did was then rename all the players in the game to this player's game. So they were just constantly, this commentator just screaming this player's name as you play, which kind of, yeah. I don't know what that would look like in Zwift. Maybe forcing everyone onto the Buffalo bike or something. I don't know.
I'm telling you, embracing the video game is like the path to Zwift, like real success. Like biking, yeah, fitness, all that good stuff. But there are probably 10 times as many people who are into video games as are into hardcore cycling.
And
How hard would it be to program like an AI commentary mode into this? That would be fun.
Oh, I've thought it would be really dangerous to give all of the robo pacers AI responses. So then people would just be spamming them with like ridiculous questions.
Did I ever tell the story about when I like realized that I'd shut off comments or something like that? Like I'd shut off the stuff. I can't remember I'd been doing something and it all whatever, so I'd turn it off because it was too much yammering. Maybe I was doing a bunch of group rides or something. And then like I'm going along in like some event and someone's like, "Why are you so quiet?" And I'm like, "Are you talking to me?" And they're like, "I've been messaging you for like 10 minutes and you haven't responded." And I'm like, "Oh." I look in, it's like, "Oh, I've turned that
Whoop,
feature off like a month ago and forgot."
whoop.
Yep.
Anyway. All right. That brings us to what we were actually going to do in terms of round the horn. Steve, you want to lead us in?
Yeah,
I
I
had
kind of.
one other news item.
Oh, go, Craig,
What other
go.
news? Let's go.
Lederhosen with the Pretzel Fest with the McCurry pretzel route this weekend.
Oh, is it forced? Is it forced Lederhosen?
You can unlock the Lederhosen.
oh,
Oh.
And the whole kit, like hat
Yep.
and gloves and yeah.
Yeah. So
But it's only this weekend. I don't
only
think I
this
have time
weekend
Oh,
for it.
snap.
dang,
Okay.
I'm going to be out of town.
and
Yeah.
only the
Oh,
McCurry
well.
pretzel. Yep.
I didn't read the post in detail. Is it the same Lederhosen, like the same Alpine
That was
Lederhosen
going to
kit that already
be my
exists?
question. Yeah.
It
Or
looks
like
the same.
ah, like just give us like a Lederhosen, but the shirt has like floral print or the hat is actually like a straw hat or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it's McCurry pretzel
Yep.
Lederhosen. Like you just need to like touch it up a bit.
So I mean, I didn't get the Lederhosen kit before, so
Ah,
I might give her a shot. But
well, if you don't have it, you should definitely get it. Don't get me wrong. Like I use it every time I ride in Innsbruck. It's perfect.
yeah.
Yeah. So what do we have to do to earn this? I know you mentioned it, and I'm sure I can look somewhere and find this out, but I'm not going to. So what do we
It's
have to do here?
So there are Pretzel Fest rides. I think you have to do one of the events,
Yeah.
but I think they're every 2 hours all weekend.
Okay. So bang one of those out, and you get Lederhosen.
Yep.
It's a
Yeah.
long one. It's like 78K, something like
Yeah.
that.
It's a lot. Yeah. That
Okay.
will be my longest ride in like 2 years if I do it. So
Mhm.
And this is happening across McCurry.
Yeah.
it's
All the Mercury roads, basically.
but
Which
it
is
stays
known
out of
for their
Neokio.
pretzels.
So it
Okay.
stays out of Neokio. I think it does.
I don't think it does the big climbs. That's the only
Yeah.
road. It doesn't do Temple and
What's McCurry Pretzel again?
Yeah, it's about 70 kilometers and it basically does most of the roads, but yeah, stays away from
Yeah.
Temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No
Okay.
temple, but
Cool.
no temple. It doesn't do the coast road. It
You
doesn't
do?
do the flat bridge from the flat bridge across in Umezi or
Oh, speaking of McCurry and roads, I did some pace partner rides in the last couple of weeks, and it looks like there's maybe a new construction worker like
oh
directing traffic before you get on. Shoot, I don't know where it is, but one of those places where you're kind of along the coast and then you go up and do a little bit of climbing to get back up to some other part. You guys know where that is, right?
exactly, yeah.
Been there.
Anyway, we rode past it, and then there was like a construction truck and a friendly worker like waving us to the right. And I think like somewhere in the deep recesses of my brain, I'm like, I don't remember seeing that person before. So maybe some new construction happening there. Could also be totally wrong, and he could have been there from the start. But
Or
the
it might just
inevitable
be some of the cosmetic enhancements that we've seen other places too. But yeah, it
a,
might
a
be some
prelude
foreshadowing too, because they
a
seem to
prelude
be going that way.
a prelude to the inevitable Mount Fuji road.
I'm sure that's it.
Wrong
I don't know
direction.
if it's inevitable. We all want it, but I don't know if I don't know if they want to do it.
I'm
We're,
fine
we're
without
all,
it. We don't. I'm fine
like
without
Hunter,
Fuji.
we only do it once and then call it quits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I mean, honestly, so yeah, I understand Zwift in this one where, yeah, I don't ride the Alp or Ventop very often, but I like that they're there.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do it. I'm not going to do it all the time, but I
I'm not
want to
going to
be
do it
able to do
almost ever.
Is
it.
Fuji
No.
like an interesting climb? Like I can do the Alp. Like I appreciate the switchbacks and Ventop. I mean, no, no, I'm not going to do that. But the Alp is an interesting hour-long effort that I will do every now and then. Is Fuji like
It's
from
long.
it's long? Is it just dead straight? Like, do you just want to put sewing needles in your eyes, or is it
I
interesting?
don't know. Like if they do the climb they did in the Olympics, that seemed pretty interesting, but I'm not I
I
only
don't
know
remember
it
that.
from the TV coverage.
Didn't they put
So
it in the
it was
climb
in the climb
portal?
portal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
I'm
do it.
sharing the link there, and it has, let's just say, very long straight segments.
Yeah.
It's not like regular switchbacks. There are switchbacks, but it's 20, almost 26K at 5%.
Yeah.
Um, so at 3 watts a kilo, it's an hour and a half climb. It's um,
It's been toppy.
little shorter than Ventop.
Yeah.
But it's a much more reasonable gradient, right? It's
Yes.
5 instead of 11. So that's good. Okay. All right. I might do that a couple of times then. All right. Carry on. Thank you for indulging me. What were we
Uh,
talking about?
well, so the seeing the construction brought up. Has anybody? I don't think I've noticed anything climbing up out of the water near the volcano. Has anybody noticed anything there or have any thoughts on what's coming? That's a no.
Oh, I haven't read that. I'm trying to think where I was riding with one of you guys, I'm sure, and we could see some new roads off to the right. But I think that was down in the sort of Mayan bottom of the grade after one of Chris's fun events. That we saw some new roads there. But no, no, I'm not seen anything yet. I've not been out to that part of Utopia for a little while. Maybe on Sunday evening when I do the Climbers Gambit.
Where are we meant to be looking for this?
There's this is the like 10th anniversary construction of the like there's some new road thing that's going to be happening that like
Yeah.
is coming up out of the water near the volcano.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen anything there yet. And was just wondering if anybody had noticed.
But like, yeah, like Oceanside,
Haven't
like
looked.
off the volcano side.
I
Okay.
think so. I don't know. Yeah.
But we're depending on Zwift updates, right? Right, to see any sort of progress on this. 'Cause it's not like, or
I think
does the
it's the
game?
October update is when it's expected.
Okay,
Yeah, I
because the
don't think it's
game
going to
doesn't.
happen sort of live in-game Fortnite style.
Yeah.
It would be a update that's deployed, which means that Apple TV viewers can look forward to having it a little bit later than everyone else.
Oh.
Yeah, coming in 2025.
So I am interested to see if
Really?
they do another way across from the volcano to the jungle, because that was always one of the you know ideas, right? And another climb up to Zwift maybe
Yeah.
to cut across that way. So
I mean, we might get our velodrome. Probably
Or
not.
we might get our velodrome in the actually, you know what? In the shadow of the volcano in the middle of the water. That's so totally Zwift, and I kind of
Yeah.
like it.
Uh, totally not what it is, but I did see somebody mention that it would be really funny and very uh, interesting to have a descent from the volcano into the depths of hell. Like,
Oh
just
yeah, yeah.
into
All
like
underwater.
some lava. Like you
Yeah.
just descend into like a fiery pit, like, big 2,000-foot descent or whatever, and then you got to climb back up.
It'd be perfect for the downhill TT.
Yeah.
I just want them to play with geography. That's all I want. All I
Yeah.
want with Swift. I'm going to bang on the drum atop my horse once again. So
You
we
know,
just been talking about Fuji, but like a lot of hills are like this. So about the first 12 Ks of the Stelvio is pretty straight and really dull. And then it's really switchbacky and loads of gradients and really pretty and amazing. Like you could just put that bit of the Stelvio somewhere in Zwift going up to the top of, I don't know, Alps to Zwift. Like I don't know what the altitudes are, but you could
Steve,
do fun things like that.
you and I have been like, this is, I don't understand why they don't do this, because you can, like we've said, join all the like UK roads, the, London and Yorkshire and Scotland, and be able to ride through them, or like then connect from London to Paris, those kinds of things. And you could even like adding all of the highlight roads from a bunch of different things as little pieces in a broader world would be really
Mm.
fun. And being able to do the climbs from Tour of Flanders
Yep.
and like, you know, finish on the Tour of Flanders, but you've got the like, the Stelvio in the middle, like the top of the Stelvio, and then the Tour of Flanders climbs would be
I think
really
your
fun.
dog's a fan of the Tour of Flanders because he came in looking very jolly midway through that.
Yeah.
We were going to talk about round the horn. I'd suggested we talked about two things. One was a sort of spinning out, one spinning out from the other. So there's been a lot of chatter I've seen in several forums about ZRL's decision to change the point scoring system. So previously they had first across the line FAL and fastest through the segment FTS weighted pretty equally. The same number of riders qualified for those points. What they've done this time is the first 20 riders qualify for first across the line, and then in the fastest through the segment, it was the top five, I believe.
Top five.
So I'd seen online two pretty uh, differing views, should we say. Matt DeFreitas of this parrot's not a fan of FTS, thinks it's a participation award, everything should be fastest across the line. And then some other chat in the forum being, I can't ever compete for FAL. I'm never going to be at the front of the group. You give me no reason to race. You need to make FTS bigger. And what struck me is it's very different to my lived experience on Zwift. I don't think if I was in that front group, I'd be competing very well for FTS. So kind of the round the horn question I had initially was how do we design a point scoring system that's quite inclusive, and should we?
Actually,
So
oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna say to an extent, I like what they've done. Like it's in the right direction. But at the same time, um, I think I did very well, and I think I scored more points than the bottom
Anyone ever?
any three of the bottom half of the field. No, no, I was second. I messed up several things, but no, yeah, it's still definitely dominated by riders who can win the sprints and win the race. There's so for anybody saying, "Oh, it's participation award," like no, it's still dominated by do you have riders who can win? But at the same time, when you get close, at least now it's a point per place, which means that further down the order, it means something. And that can be the difference between places for your team.
So out there idea, make the so in the past, the way that the finishing points worked was very small jumps at the bottom end and increasing jumps the further up you finish.
Yeah, and I
What
mean
if you
that
flip
was
that? What if you flip that so that
yeah.
maybe the top five all get the same base finishing points, and then
Mm.
5 through 10 get the same, but the additional so you're actually giving people something to race for further down. So you're giving them something to actually motivate them. And now for those people that are in that front group, you are now okay, you're actually so there's still the bonuses for the finish. So you got to get in that group and do well in the finish there. And you're fighting for FAL points. So there's going to be differences in how many points you score. It's just maybe the amount of points that you score based on your finish isn't that big of a difference,
Yeah.
unless you're, winning or getting the top five, whatever.
So
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that they've changed, which I really like, is the fact that every place matters now.
Yeah.
When you finish like GC, when you finish the stage, every place matters. I think previously, and in fairness, the best ever race I've ever done, the most exciting finish I have, was for an entirely pointless sprint for about 67th against James Bailey, who was on my team. I don't think it changed the number of points that either of us got. So
I remember this. It was hilarious.
it was absolutely hilarious. So you could still have fun. Like I done the old scoring system. I'd still try and beat people because I just like to beat people at the line. But what they've introduced now is the jeopardy of like actually if you don't beat them, if you mess it up, like that's going to cost you points, which is really cool. Um, I like I like your thinking, Sean. What I like about how the herd scoring system works is there is that weighting towards GC finishing against sprints. Like it feels a bit more like the Tour de France. You can win the intermediate sprint, but that isn't worth as much as winning the stage. Like so it's that kind of weighting that way of like it's the performance at the end that really matters. Does that change it for people who feel like I'd never be at the pointy end of the race and like FTS was my chance to win a thing? I don't know. So
I mean, it's really hard to not have enough power to get to be at the front and do anything in an FTS.
Yeah.
For a
Unless
short
you're
segment, but what about like a climb? Like if you're the climber and not the sprinter.
Even so, I mean, if you're the climber and there's a
how'd you get
decent
dropped?
climb in the
Yeah.
race, you're going to be dropping the sprinters.
Well, if there were several intermediate sprints and then the
Yeah.
climbs in the middle. And
Yeah.
this was going to be my other question. I don't know. Some of this definitely comes down to route design, right? So Tuesday's ZRL was a pretty easy route for a good watt sprinter. Like it's a 5 minute climb. Like as you've proven, Craig, like it isn't like if you're at the top of your group, top of your category, and you've got a good sprint, you're probably not getting dropped on that 5 minute climb, and you've got a sprint to beat up people in the sprint segments. But I'd be interested to see if, like, obviously you can't custom design routes in that way, but imagine if you had a short sprint, then a 10 minute climb, then a short sprint like that. That's then pushing people to differ. Like you might go, well, I'm going to go all out in that short sprint, and I know I'm not going to keep up in the 10 minute climb now, but I'm going to go all out in that short sprint. And there might be people who are stronger sprinters who are thinking, I don't want to go out all out on this strong sprint because I need to save myself for this 10 minute climb. So I think
that would be like doing like a lap of like Innsbruck Ring, Innsbruck KOM. I know that's 20, not 10 for most people or longer, and then going back down doing like another lap or two of Innsbruck Ring, right? Like that's
So this again, I'm actually liking my wild scoring like idea even more because it really it would penalize you for getting dropped in bigger way, right? So that like the further down you go, the bigger uh, those drop-offs end up being. So if you go too hard before a climb, if there's a sprint, climb, sprint, um, say you end up losing 5 or 10 places because of going too hard on that first thing. Well, you lost 5 or 10 points, but you probably made them up. But if the detriment to you from getting dropped is actually bigger, you might actually it might rebalance how people race these things.
So I mean, yes and no. So like this is where the guys that are winning all the sprints are also at the front of the race.
They're usually really strong. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I don't think that is necessarily going to do as much, but I definitely think a balance between the finish and the number of points available in the race needs to be done because there's basically only, what is it, 1 point. So it's 1 point per rider you've beaten plus a bonus of 20, I think, for the winner.
Oh, only 10 actually.
Or 10, yeah. I mean, it's not that much for the win in comparison to the points available for the intermediates. I think our 1/3, 2/3 for the HSRL points racing has, and the points per place scaling as well has, I think it's proven out over time. Even, we've had multiple riders and teams, kind of try to game that scoring system over the years, and it's held up pretty well. Like you can game it, but you're always giving something out. If you're sitting and waiting a lap or whatever, you're giving up a bunch. So, yeah, I think something along those lines. But I do want to bring up, remember the first season of ZRL when I think, what was it, the first 25 people got points and then everybody else got 1 point.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what place you were in. And the idea was, well, people will work for their team leader. But they can't.
They're dropped.
Yeah, they're gone on the first climb. There's no working. It's just, I guess I'm gonna suffer. I'm gonna grind my way in zone 2 and get my 1 point.
And it was, I think, only 5 riders were getting. I can't remember if it was FAL or FTS, but like on intermediate points as well.
It was FTS, yeah. Or no, it was FAL.
FAL, yeah.
It was just FAL. It was just the first 5 riders. Yeah, it was. I mean, that was interesting.
Yeah.
As far as it wasn't very many points. I remember in that season working for those points, and I think one of our teams on Yorkshire, of course, but we got first and third in the sprint, I think, on both laps. But it was yeah, it wasn't really worth the effort compared to the finish points at that point. It was kind of debatable.
Yeah, I mean, I think philosophically, what you want is, leaving aside, Matt's sense that these are participation medals, is you let's be clear. Anytime you're in categorized racing, anyone who's not an A is in a participation medal. Let's start with that, generally speaking. Like if you're not an A, like you're already like cutting out the people who are faster than you. And so yeah, really what this is about is making it fun for you to give a hard effort to every race. And so, if I think that's the thing to me that about the FTS ones that maybe fall a little bit short is that they can incent people to like cruise and not go hard for so much of the race, except for like these very defined segments. Obviously, if it's an FTS across like a climb, it's a little bit different. But when it's like a sprinty one, the incentive is to like go slow and then go hard. Although I'll say, like to your point, Craig, I don't know, and maybe I'd be curious for like Steph and John's feedback on this. I think in the lower levels, that is more gameable than the higher ones. So I think your experience is the same that I've had, Craig, is that the people who are fast. But I think at
Yeah.
the lower levels, there's a lot more people who can gin up more watts for a short sprint by going easy longer compared to the
Yeah,
upper top ones.
basically it's that every like sprint power doesn't really change much across categories, but all the other types of power do, right? Aerobic power goes up immensely as you go up the ladder, but
Yeah.
there are Ds who can out sprint As. Uh,
But
and
maybe not if they've had to do like 230 or 240
exactly,
watts for the last 20 minutes, whereas the
right,
bees who can do like 1200 watt 15 seconds, it doesn't phase them to have to go tempo for 20
right.
minutes.
Yeah, but the guys who have a mid 600 watt 1 minute, I'm like, I'm not believing your sub 300 5 minute.
Oh, I still do. Yeah, there's
Um, so
maybe.
I mean, I don't know. I'm really unfit right now, and I'm I fit that category because
Yeah.
and I've been training hard for sprints, but like I was really surprised at how well I was able to recover from having done no endurance work for basically a year.
But
Well,
like,
these
what's
are
the
we've said before, these are really short events, so it's
Yeah.
not like we're comparing, I don't know, Chris Hoyle, one of the Olympic sprinters who can lay down 2,000 watts, who
Yeah.
is faster than the sprinters who win the Tour de France.
Yeah.
No,
But
no.
they can't do that after riding 6 hours.
There's
So
no
that,
way Chris Hoy's getting to the end of
yeah,
that race. Yeah.
exactly that. Like these guys are maybe that stage where they like the average watts was 180 watts, wasn't it? Yeah. Like even with like the elite riders, you can have people who can deliver like really, really high watts, but for short intervals, and people who can do that after a long ride. Like there are different sorts of people there, aren't there? So
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, there's all sorts of different ways. I mean, your suggestion is good. I think at the end of the day, fast people, like whatever system you came up with, like all your stuff, Sean, the fast people, especially if they did a bit of recon or whatever, would figure out a way to game all that stuff out. And the fast people who are strong would game all the like score the points because they're better at cycling.
Yeah.
Like I just
Yeah, I do think that having a bigger so it's about incentives, right? Like all of this is about incentives and the if making the lower uh lower in the race riders have more incentive to care about every place uh and by making that incentivizing that with points. Like if you finish ahead of, like if you can get to that next group, or if so that there's something for you to work for further back, and making it so you can even add FTS and make it count. But like this is going to disincentivize riders who could potentially stay with the front group, but uh, wouldn't wouldn't do you don't score as many points if you get dropped because there's big drops the further back you go. So it like doesn't actually make sense for you to drop and cruise and then go hard for the FTS.
but
Um,
even for the finish, so like the ZRL on Tuesday, my race got dropped by the lead group on the climb. I got into a group of 5 or 6. There were 2 guys ahead of us at the top of the bridge. I tried to push it over the sort of lumps on the way down, see if anyone else wanted to push. Nobody wanted to push. So we just sat there and sort of rode on each other's wheels a bit with a guy 10 seconds up the road. Now, 5 or 6 of us, that guy wasn't hugely pushing, should have been able to catch them up. And for me, it's how do you motivate how do you motivate big groups to work against small groups? I think if I take a step back, I look at I think even in A category, Zwift is a video game. It's a participatory thing. Like if you're really into racing, you probably go and do bike racing. Like that's where you go and do it. And there's a whole level of skill set. So it's those things that are in video games which are missing to make this more informed. So we were talking about it last weekend, Chris. You said at one point, this is where I need in-game scoring because I think I've already done enough to win this race. I don't need to chase this person down. And if you had on your display, right, you've got this many points, the position above you is worth this many points, the person behind you has got this many points, like you have got all that information, and suddenly you're in that, oh, actually, if I put this little effort in, I catch that person, that's worth this many points to me. Like, oh wow, you're suddenly incentivized. Whereas, and same in ladder stuff, like we've had races where we're like, are we winning? Are we ahead? What do we do? Like we're trying to work it out on the fly. If you could have that displayed on screen, like a little bar at the top, like this is the point situation. Like if this person in ninth beats the person in 10th, that wins you it. Like it suddenly becomes massive, doesn't it?
This
Yeah,
is
it technically exists, but it's I think it's a source plugin. I've seen it before with uh, Dave Roberts of the Cassowaries. There are source plugins where you can have actual race results, ladder race results on the screen, so you can see how. But yeah, it's again a third party that you need for that.
So the sauce for Zwift ladder scoring is really cool. And
Yeah,
that's exactly what needs to be in game. The problem is right now, the game doesn't know our scoring for any community organized races. And ZRL, which is the biggest set of races, doesn't even use the same system as the rest of the community races. So yeah, it's a big mess right now.
And it's I think it is hard. Like, and this is where if I was sat in Zwift shoes, I would go, right, we're going to give you, we worked out 3 ways of scoring across these different types of segments that will happen in game. We're going to give those to you. And I think what I've seen from the community, what I've experienced is people are incredibly inventive at doing what they can with what's already in the system. So we'd probably find there's new weird and wonderful races that we haven't thought of that kind of fit in with these scoring systems that get made to work, and then maybe Zwift rolls them out some more. I think so. That's kind of problem number one. I see with the kind of helping these people to feel like they're getting some value out of their race. For me, problem number two I really experienced on Tuesday was that your race position in a big group and server updates are still a bit laggy. So in one of the segments, I either finished 16th or 23rd or 35th because all of those numbers flashed up in about a second of the group I'm in. I still don't know because the results haven't updated. So I think that's actually probably a harder fix for Zwift than if they're able to display this segment was judged on finishing position through the segment. Here is the leaderboard for the segment flashed up like it does at the moment, right? When you do the segment, you see your time afterwards. That just flashed up afterwards. I go, right, I know what happened in that bit. I know that actually I got some FAL points because I finished in the top 20 because I've got that information from the game. Whereas at the moment, I don't even have that. So I don't know until after I've raced from a system that's a third party system that wasn't updated an hour after the race. So frankly, I stopped caring at that point. So yeah, two things for me: display live scoring in game. The harder one, knowing your position in game in big groups becoming easier would be cool.
Yeah, I think the second one's the harder one. The first one continues to boggle me because, like, I watched that DC Rainmaker interview, and I can't remember who the second guy was with Eric Min. Which, like, if you're into Zwift and you're interested in the sort of the background of the company, I highly recommend. But he talks about in the interview how, the whole sort of inspiration of Zwift was how to bring like that outdoor community vibe of like, you're smashing your friends up your KOM and you're trying to do all this to bring that all into like indoor riding. And then like that, like I guess they have KOM times and they have sprint times, but they don't have like that indoor race scoring time. Like, eh, so that part of it boggles me that they talk about that community thing that they're trying to get in. So that combined with the fact that like there's 1,000 video games that can calculate, how many kills and points and flags and for 88 people in a match or 99 in a Fortnite game instantaneously. So like there's 1,000 other pieces of software that do this, but Zwift, and I give some recognition that Zwift is not Epic Games. It doesn't have $1 billion a month like uh, Epic, but it also has been around now for 10 years. and they still haven't got this worked in. And video games have been around with online scoring at least that long too. So at some point, like it should be able to be a thing that you can exactly to Steve's point that here are two or three in-game scoring mechanisms that you can arrange and erase, or at least their own in-house races or WTRLs that we will now implement, and you can see them as the game goes on. I mean, it, it, the
But
fact it's just surprising.
So
It's surprising to me.
I think this needs to happen. And so the Zwift itself, the Zwift application itself needs to know about what the point system is in order for the, what do we call it, Z points to work. Yeah. So if Zwift Racing score is going to work, it needs to know what the points result is.
Is it
Yeah,
going to
this is
count
These
from?
two things have to happen in order for Zwift Racing. It's going to have the same flaws that the Zwift Power rating has had, that it just doesn't know about points. But
And we all know how different your kind of normalized power and those metrics can look for different events. So a climber's gambit can look very, very different to a bullseye. Like it's that I can be climber's gambit. I'm going very hard on a segment or two segment. A bullseye, I'm trying to do nothing until I absolutely have to and be first across the line. So I don't care if I get first across the line doing 3.2 watts a kilogram and Chris doing 3.1. Like that wins me that segment, or I might have to go nuts for a whole lap. It's really good point, Craig.
yeah, and it's also you have two examples. Like my whoosh has the point system for like first across the line has something in its system. They have big backing, but the other spectrum, which is based on racing Inivelo, which is basically a one-man project, also has it from the ground up. So it's not really about money in a sense. It's
I mean,
just
Indy Velo's got points races, elimination races, Kieran
yeah.
races, like team races. There's like, it is possible to, and this is a former Zwift developer who got sick of Zwift not doing these things and was like,
Yeah.
I'll do it then.
And yet I still haven't been on IndieVelo.
Yeah.
Like I've never logged in. Like it I don't even know if I can. I might be able to, but
It's not, I mean, at this point, not as good as Zwift, but I've
Not
never
on Apple
raced on
TV.
there. Oh yeah, it might not be on Apple TV.
I tried my whoosh briefly. It was very meh. Yeah.
Like this is the like Facebook thing, right? Like you once you already have the community, you have the advantage, and even if somebody else has a uh, better product in ways, it's hard to get people there to like make the experience better. And
Yeah.
I
I think
actually do really like the way that Zwift does a lot of this stuff, and like a lot of it is us complaining because we would really like to see the things that we would love in the game that we love.
I think 100%. It's interesting on your community point. I think having tried a few of these things, I think where Zwift is still like a step function above its competitors is how connected you feel to the bike when you're on the game. Like every other game I play, I become aware that there's an avatar that doesn't really feel like it's doing what I'm doing. Whereas in Zwift, the responsiveness of the avatar seems to move on screen really well. Actually, with the new pack dynamics where you move around, like it was the moving through riders was the thing that separated you a bit. Now you tend to move around riders a bit more. That experience is very smooth, and I think that's the USP of Zwift for me is like that's really smooth. Plus, you have this community in, which is great. Whenever we've tried different community things like elsewhere, you felt removed from the from the app, or it's been really difficult to access things like that. So I feel like it would be such an easy win for Zwift. Let's say they do their crit racing series and they say it's about first across the line and we got live scoring in the game and it's only ever on Downtown Dolphin or Crit City. People go nuts. This is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go and do this because I know straight away what I'm going to do, whether I'm one, that kind of thing.
But well, live scoring, if it's first, it's just a first across the finish line at the end.
Yeah.
You do 10 laps and you get, like, I don't know, 10 points for finishing first down to 1 point for finishing 10th.
Yeah.
Live scoring, Crit City.
I thought the crit races were just straight up finish
No,
line
they are.
first.
They're currently just it's a scratch race on a crit course,
Yeah.
but like what Steve is saying is it would be an easy win for them to implement like FAL scoring in those races.
And I picked that as a map that I think is probably the easiest thing for them to do with.
Yeah.
There's two
Yeah.
segments. Like, it's actually one segment. It's the segment forward and it's the segment backwards. Like, when I talk about segment, I mean a lap. You can't turn off. There's no junctions. And I think my guessing is that there's some weird software architecture with how Zwift deals with junctions. We've all seen this where people just disappear from the leaderboard and then reappear again because you're sort of like in a different segment of the game. Craig's mocking me, waving my hands around, but like you've moved over to like this part of Makuri, which isn't really connected to this part of Makuri because it's got this magical joining bit in it. And then you jump over and suddenly the other person appears back on the leaderboard again. So I've said before, I think I suspect there's problems with like timings like through that architecture. But Crit City, it's a map. It's got one lap. It's got that lap reversed. You'd think that would be really, really simple to be a really simple test bed for, right, we can do fastest through this climb segment. We can add those up. We can do first across the line at the finish line and we can add those up and just
Crit City and Paris.
Yeah.
Paris would have been like Paris would be easy as well.
They're basically the same.
It's the same,
as far as
structurally,
game is concerned, not game from the back end. It's identical. They race very differently, obviously.
Yeah.
I will say, just to circle back to something we talked about in terms of the creating the worlds. I think Sean, you mentioned like we always want the connected worlds. I saw somebody note that they think that one of the impediments is the GPS architecture that Zwift has put over top of all their stuff, because that would break all that, I guess. Which, like, I watch people do like join pace partner and it like has these lines across their Strava segment, and I'm like, who cares about your GPS segment in Zwift? But in any event, that was the explanation, whether it's true or not.
Bounce me around, I don't care.
Yeah, like
I mean, there's that easy win in Paris, isn't there? Again, circling back to where you were, Sean, we've all said that Montmartre climb from the Olympics looked amazing. Add it to Paris.
I assume there were some licensing issues as to why they didn't hurry up and get that done in time. But
they can't do it with the Olympics logo, so they have to come up with another excuse.
Whatever, do it now. Do it 2 weeks
France,
later.
Paris World doesn't have a com. It was the logical place to put a com.
Yeah. Well, I think that listen, notwithstanding all of our commentary about what would make this more fun and more participatory, the number one thing is to get out and do it in any event. We got HSRL, we got Stampede, we got Climbers Gambit all this weekend. So get out there and do your races, do it with the herd, get on the Discord and chat with people. And, we, as Steve pointed out, whatever Zwift gives us, we kind of make it work anyway. And there's lots of fun to be had. So I think on that one, we'll say thank you to Steph Etchen. Thank you to Steve Pritchard. Thank you to Chris Greenland. Apologies again for not asking about your drinks.
Oh, good.
Thank you to Craig Martin. Thank you to
Jose's back.
And thank you to Sean Fogenberg. Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for riding with the herd. Moo and good night.